Tirar o cartaz. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Esta Portugal YouTube channel. Tirar o cartaz. Wait a moment, because I have here somebody speaking on my back. Okay, again, we start again. Good afternoon. Welcome to Esta Portugal YouTube channel. We are together for one more Meet the Speakers. Those are the pre-season events of Porto 2020 European String Teachers Association. Today, we have an honor to have with us Laura Folk from Catalonia and Ines Tomic from Croatia. It's very important for us to have one more time somebody from Spain. We know Spain doesn't have yet a ESTA branch. Maybe it's this year the opportunity to fill a group, to put them all together, to put the energies together and build one more branch to join the big community of all branches of Europe. Almost every country has an ESTA branch. As you know, ESTA is aiming for the good of the music and the teaching. And we want to share our knowledge and experience to make our job and our lives better. I need to say a big thanks for Pirastro and Tomastic, our principal sponsors, because they are still with us and they are helping the research in music and the sharing of knowledge and formation of new teachers. We will start with Laura. She arrived first. Hi, Laura.
Hello, hello.
Hi, thanks for coming and thanks for proposing for the ESTA 2020 conference.
Well,
it's nice to have you with us. Do you want to tell us how it comes that you knew about ESTA and what's your ideas about this community and why did you propose to the conference?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me and also for keeping this the community of the Porto conference going throughout this really difficult period. I think it's so important for all of us to feel that you know we're not going to give up whatever happens. So that's really great. Well, as you say, I am from Catalonia. I'm Catalan, Spanish as well, in a sense. But I joined ESTA when I finished college. I went to college in London at the Royal Court of Music. And so I joined immediately when I don't know, it was like in the prehistoric age. I think it was 88, 89. And so I was very lucky to have a great teacher, a great pedagogue, Joan Dixon, who immediately said, God, there's ESTA, you must join. You'll have lots of, you know, lots of support and so on. So I've been a member of ESTA for ages and ages. And you rightly say that there is no ESTA branch in Spain. I mean, that's really a great pity, but it's been a difficulty because there have been intentions and sort of people have tried to set up an ESTA branch, and I think it says a lot about our character, doesn't it? It's not, we are not team players, and that is also our tragedy on other fronts. So, but hopefully, I was really looking forward to coming to the conference and meeting you because we are neighbors, we are brothers, and so you know to be able to set up some sort of community, you know, in the peninsula, that would be really great, and maybe there's still chances to do that. Let's see.
Oh, so you are a member of the family already. So I'm sorry for not the best words. I could welcome you like a sister.
I guess so. Yes.
Already. Are you still member of ESTA UK?
Yes, I am. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because there is no ESTA Spain, so I've always been a member of ESTA UK. Yeah, yeah.
And that's the UK, you know, is such a great branch. They have so big activity. They keep also meetings online every week. You can go to also YouTube channel of ESTA UK. You will learn a lot and a lot of things to see and to watch and to try. And yes, please, if you
No.
already subscribe to the ESTA Portugal YouTube channel, you go after to ESTA UK YouTube channel and also subscribe it.
No, for sure. The UK have always been spearheads, and so it's really great. Yeah, great support.
Yeah, Laura, do you want to tell us about your life? I would say how, because yeah, you speak so well English. I feel impressed because normally I have more successful English than the Spanish, but with you I have not a great chance.
No, that's no merit. I was brought up with 5 languages before the age of 5, and my parents went to work in England, so I was just chucked in a primary school. So I just learned English, and I think it's if you learn before the age of 7 or something like that, I think it's somehow you don't have your original ethnic accent, so you can pick accents up more easily. I think that's the secret, but basically. Yeah, there's no merit in that really.
But you travel to London, you said. Yes, you study.
I do. I lived from when I was 5 till 12, and then we came back to Spain, and that was of course there was still the dictatorship and so on here in Spain. And then I went back to study in London because I had contact. So I did my performers and teachers degree in London later on, and worked for a year or so there. I specialized in the early music movement because I love the freedom that movement gave a player at that point. You know, I was quite tired of the traditional, classical repertoire and the way everything was dealt with. And so at that point, the early music movement was very offered a great freedom. And so I was lucky to have great teachers at college at that point. And then when I came back to Barcelona, Spain, it was a moment where things were opening up, where it was the Olympic Games, 92 was the Barcelona Olympic Games. So a lot of money was being put into culture, at least at that point. And a lot of early music movements started here. And so I started working with people here in Spain, Emilio Moreno, then Jordi Savall, who I've been working with for like 15 years. So that's sort of my career as a performer. And I've been performing until about 10 years ago when I set up the education department at the Pau Casals Museum with creative workshop for school children, for conservatory students. And then I have a conservatory job as well, part-time. So that's basically my story.
Great. Can you tell us about your feelings, some difference between the Catalan teaching and the UK teaching?
Catalan, Spanish. I think.
I speak about music, of course,
music,
and about
music.
Yes, not about language.
No. But I think that what happens in general teaching in Spain and Catalonia is applicable to music teaching. I think there is still far too academic approach to things, whereas in the UK it's experiential. First you feel, first you do, and then you analyze. And unfortunately, in Spain, it's the contrary. I don't know what it's like in Portugal, but I would guess it's similar. So I think that's the greatest harm in our teaching, let's say. And on the other side, there's an amazing amount of talent. You know, I think we are an artistic race, let's say, ethnic group for sure. But I think that's one of the problems is that far too academic kind of teaching. It must be more experiential.
Yeah, this is really interesting. If you combine these two words, to experience and to analyze it, and make the first one the first or the other the first.
Well, it has to
I
do.
think it's a very good way to look for things and to understand, maybe.
I think it has to do also with the theme of your conference, research and practice. And last week you were asking one of the speakers, you were asking her whether she was doing any academic research. And I do feel that we are constantly doing academic research in our teaching and in our playing, in our rehearsing. Whether we are in an academic structure or not, we are researching. We are in, it's clinical practice, let's say. And I think it should be valued more as well. I don't know what you feel about it, but
no, I completely agree with you. But our theme of the conference goes to this issue, and you know, because there are two worlds now, very very distinct: the academic world with the researchers and the practice world with the practitioners, like you say. But the practitioners, they do research. The problem is that they don't share it.
Well,
and we
sometimes
need that. You need this formal academic way of, or this research community to share the things you learn, because you learn with your students. If you share, many teachers can improve from your research. I think it's exactly this we want with this conference. Is that you don't need to change, what you are doing, because it's great, and of course all teachers are researching at the same time, but we need to put them together.
No, for sure. And I think how to share, I mean, that is the secret, isn't it? That's the question, how to share without being on an equal level of power, of I think that's very difficult. And as a musician working in early music projects and doing recordings on sort of unedited works, I've often found we've been quite funny anecdotes we have of trying to share knowledge with musicologists who were also paid to assist the recording. And we basically ended up just, well, in a very violent situation. I remember one recording, especially, we asked the director to just send the musicologist home because it was impossible to continue. You know, musicologists, of course, research and think they're fantastic. I think some of them really are fantastic, but others want to impose certain criteria. But with musicians' ears, you're saying, look, that note just can't be that note. You know, I know it's 17th century, but I'm not going to play that. I'm not going to sign my name on this record with this note. And so, you know, it's yeah, I think is how to share the knowledge is the big question, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we need ESTA. ESTA is one way of sharing the knowledge. We are doing that for almost 50 years.
Sure. Yeah.
So we should keep it. Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
We will come to you next to ask you about what you propose for the conference. But now we want to meet Ines Tomic. Hi, Ines.
Hi, let me just unmute. Hi.
Hi, Ines. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
You are still not in Porto, but at least we are together here.
Yes.
You have a tragic story.
Well,
almost,
and I hope it's finished now. Yes.
But I don't know if we will meet in the Porto conference, because I think it will not be possible to do it. But first, you are welcome here. After everything is gone, you are my guest. So you are welcome to Porto whenever you want. You come to visit us and come to meet our school and everything.
Thank you.
So
it will be my honor.
A step to come.
Thank you very much. Yes, I hope that this story with my lecture will finish now with this. Yes.
Okay, Ines, you are a teacher? Yeah?
Yes, I'm a violin teacher. I teach in elementary and high music school in Zagreb, in Croatia.
And all time you was there?
Yes.
You
Yes.
study Zagreb, yeah?
Yes, I studied in Croatia, my elementary high school, and at Music Academy here in Zagreb, I finished my bachelor's degree and then master's degree. At the time, I already started working in a music school, and I still had time and goodwill for playing and learning, so I finished my master's studies at
Yeah.
that time.
And we can see that you really love to teach. We feel it. That's
Yes.
a nice.
Yes, from the first moment, I just fell in love with teaching, with students, with teaching, with violin pedagogy. And from the first moment, I started to research, to research and to learn about it because I felt when I started working, I felt like I didn't remember what I was playing when I was a child. And I felt that I didn't learn enough at the academy. So I studied and read it and went to master classes and to other teachers to listen to their classes. And at that time, I felt a need to put all those ideas in one place. So I made a little booklet that I found useful for myself. And with time, my colleagues came and they liked it also. So it became a book. Because here in Croatia, since we're a pretty young state, our teaching system, school system, especially music system, we inherited many from ex-Yugoslavia, and some things were still new and undeveloped. The one was violin curriculum. So when I made this my little booklet for myself, the other colleagues liked it, and it became the first violin beginners book here in Croatia, and it's still in use. I'm very happy to say that. But as you were speaking about school systems, I have to say that we here in Croatia have a very good luck to have. Excuse me, just a moment. I think my son needs me for a second.
He's welcome.
We
He's welcome.
we came just from the playground. I will be back just in a minute.
Okay. Well, it's nice. We are taking care of kids. It's our life as a teacher. So I think it was a good.
Okay, everything is under control. So I was saying about our school system. We are very lucky to have this music schools in Croatia are state schools. So we have very, very big students have many lessons. They have 2 lessons of instrument and 2 lessons of solfege in the week, and lessons are individual. Later, they also have orchestra and other subjects, and I think this is very, very good, and we are very proud of this system. Of course, we have some space to make improvements. There's always a space for improvements, but I think we can be proud about this.
Yes. Well, two lessons a week is not very common in Europe nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah. And a lot. Every child that wants to learn music, he has the opportunity, or is difficult? Is not
Yes,
so
yes.
many.
Well, most of the schools have auditions for children to see if children have rhythm and musical hearing. But every child can come on this audition, and most of them are accepted. It usually depends on how much places we have open in music schools.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important basis for a good community to have
Of course, of
good
course,
music schools.
of
Yes,
course.
all of us agree about
Yeah.
Okay, Ines, you wrote your book in Croatian?
My first book, yes, it was in Croatian in 2008. You can see my son now. In 2008, it got her its second edition later, and recently I wrote also books in English. Beginners books, 3 beginners books in English, and some other materials, some materials for practice monitoring and some didactical aids. The things that I found very useful in my classroom. So I wanted to share, and I shared with my colleagues and my friends, and now I share it with everybody who wants to share with us.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, you can use our channels to also promote your books.
Thank you.
If you want, send us, and we will send everybody, at least
Okay,
the
thank you.
participants of the conference. And about I was always curious about this language problem during the Yugoslavia. You remember Yugoslavia? Yeah?
Of course, I was born in Yugoslavia.
And so when maybe you can explain us how it was the education time that time. You learn in Croatian or you learn in which language?
Oh,
Was that
yes.
for
Well,
everybody?
I was born in Croatia, which was a republic, one republic in Yugoslavia, and we always spoke Croatian language, but we had to learn Cyrillic letters, you know. So in 3rd grade, we have to read books in Cyrillic letters.
But which language? Russian?
No, Serbian language. Serbian.
Serbian.
Yes.
Because okay.
Yes.
Interesting. And
So,
do you think that make a difference in music? The influence of the language make some difference in music playing?
I think very much, very much. I think, you know, this book, Arnon Kor's book. Yes, where he speaks about the influence of the language on music, on ancient music, and I think it's also influenced today, and especially in folk music, which has every nation's classical music. I think has some roots in folk music in some way. So I think it's all connected with language, with the rhythm of language, which is part of our habitus, the rhythm of the language, the meaning of the melody of the language. It's all part of us, of our identity.
And I think that there are is there also in Zagreb a very strong culture of violin, folk violin?
Folk violin. Well,
People, because I remember in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, we listened a lot from this folk violin playing. It was very interesting.
well, yes, yes, there is. Not so much in Croatia, the violin. Some parts of Croatia, the violin is very popular, but some other instruments are a little more popular in folk music in Croatia. I think the more parts that are closer to Hungary, there you can find more violin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, very interesting. So it's you all that are watching us. You see it. One more big reason to come to the conference to meet Laura Folk and Ines Tomik. If you want to make questions for them, you can always use the chat of our YouTube channel. or you can write on our Facebook page, ESTA Portugal. And of course, if you want to join our Zoom meetings, you just need to register to the conference and you will get a free link to come freely to our meetings and to join us and to speak as much as you want and share also your ideas. Thank you for watching us. And we go again to Laura because we are curious to know what she wants to tell us at the conference. But don't tell everything because we should keep some secret things for getting people to listen to you after.
No, I had proposed a practical workshop for the conference, and it was a workshop that I was proposing to do with our instruments. And basically, well, I think I work always with my students sort of taking the repertoire to bits, taking it to pieces and doing creative work around it. So in a way, they analyze and sort of play it at the same time. It's basically, I guess it would be just joining up the classes, analysis and playing. And I was going to do something similar with some Spanish songs because I thought that would be fun with, the 7 Spanish songs by Falla, Manuel de Falla, that are based on folk music. And we were going to do something related to that. I think it's got to do with the fact that I think I'm just tired of listening to the same repertoire over and over again. No, I do confess that when I hit 50, I just changed drastically. And so I think it's also a methodology that helps me, and I find it great fun, but it really does get my students to get inside the skin of the pieces, and then understand, what the pieces are about. Lots of them have ended up being composers instead of cellists, so they've gone into composition. But it's just a way of working, a fun way, and I thought I'd share it with you. I think it's got to do as well with being a cellist, because we often just have to sit in orchestras waiting for the violins so that you can figure out how to play something. And we get really bored waiting for you to figure out how to sort your passages out. So we just start messing around with the music and inventing things. I think it's got to do with that. And then also working in early music and with certain ethnic bands, we have to invent most of the stuff anyway. So I think that's become sort of part of what I do with my students. Now, that's what I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, this is an interesting point of view. And you were speaking, and I was thinking, because you play early music, you spoke about Saval before, and I have a very strong personal opinion about this. For me, for example, I thought Saval is the most contemporary musician, was in that time.
Exactly.
Nothing about early music, only about contemporary performance. And this way you approach to music, I think, and this kind of things you propose in workshop, I have a big feeling that is one way of influence the nowadays way of thinking in performance. And this I think it's very interesting because, well, I believe that performance is one art like the others, and that evolve and transform during the years, and every year is different, every single musician is different, and art is lively, I would say. But this is my personal ideas, and I am not an academic, I have to say. I am a player and a teacher.
No.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, even if you're playing early music, but if you're playing it nowadays, I mean, today in the 2020, it's contemporary music, of course, and all the choices you make are because you are a contemporary person and player, and because we've heard Miles Davis, Stravinsky, etc.
Yes.
So
and flamenco.
And flamenco también, cariño, sí. Of course. And so it's yeah. As I say, I think I chose to move into early music because the traditional sort of romantic classical music was so tied up with traditions of performance traditions, of course, that it was very difficult to maneuver and invent things in it. But yeah, no, I think it's a fun way to be in music. That's how I'd say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, speaking about that, do you think the cellists from Andalusia have a different feeling than the cellists from Catalonia?
I think.
Have you ever noticed?
Well, actually, in Catalonia, we have some of the best flamenco and Andalusian musicians because
really?
we have even more than in Andalusia. Because, of course, they all came in the 50s when
you have more money, yeah? That's because
the money was extremely poor. So everyone came to the north of Spain, the Basque Country in Catalonia. We had the industries. And so we have amazing, amazing flamenco musicians who are now Catalan. So really, flamenco is now Catalan music as well, music from Catalonia. But I think flamenco is an amazing sort of music because the meter, it's not as complex as Indian music. But when I started working with a flamenco group, I just didn't understand a thing. I didn't know where the first beat was. It was just like very, very difficult. And I do think that they have an amazing internal rhythmic feel, of course, yes, that maybe in the north of Spain, which is more towards France, we don't have so naturally. Yeah, you're right.
Great. Ines, in Croatia, there is a feeling also. Is there a national feeling for violin playing?
Well, it's hard to say actually, especially in these late years, because you know how culture comes in which place in many countries, and also in Croatia. But we have a long tradition of violin school and string school. The famous Antonio Janigro started Zagreb Soloists, and Václav Huml started the Zagreb Violin School. And so, yes, we have a long violin school tradition.
Yes. Maybe now I was thinking, I don't know, I want to ask your opinion, because, when we speak about classical music, when we speak about playing Beethoven and Brahms, we have a central idea, like there is one way to play it, and we should follow the great tradition of the composer, the son of the composer, the grandson of the composer, the grandson, grand student of that teacher, and we tend to find one way. And with this new feeling, I think we have now more open. It starts to open and we start to see that it's interesting to see different things. Maybe we will give more value to this flavors of different countries and influenced by their own culture or their own feeling or their own national music. I don't know.
Yes,
well for us, we have Fado. We will play with Fado emotions. I don't know what that will happen, but...
Yes, of course, you can't run from your identity and your nationality and your mentality. You can't run away from it. It's inside of you. But I think it also depends of your teacher, because all of us, when we go to school and when we study, we listen to our teachers in whom we have trust. But it really is up to teachers to develop the personality in young player, which will later show its own ideas and his own taste in music, which also, of course, has some influences from nationality, as you speak about.
This is really interesting. You speak about trust, because it's old thing about music learning. I think we trust 100% in our teachers. But I don't have this feeling in these kids now. What do you think, Laura? What do you think about this? Your students trust you, or they look to you like a culture?
No, I think they don't respect me enough. I think I need to whip them sometimes. No, for instance, there is a difference. I think there is different respect for, well, the relationship with the teacher, of course, has changed in 50 years a great deal. Yeah, but I think it has to do with the general attitude of younger people to the older generations. I think not only to your teacher. The teacher was sacrosanct. Of course, all my cello teachers, if they were doing a concert, even if it was 3 hours or 4 hours away, my parents would drive me there, or I would find a way to go and listen to my teacher. You know, he was, and I think that admiration is important, because you know, you learn from someone you admire, you copy that person, and you absorb everything the person has, and you need to have that admiration, to have that drive, and to be able to incorporate everything that the person can give you. I think basically there's too much around. I think there's less, the relationship is less intense maybe now with your teacher. I don't know, Ines, what you think.
Well, I would say also that the way of teaching changed. Today, we often ask our students, what do you think? You know, back in the old days, it was, this is like that. You play Brahms like this. You play in this part of the bow. You play this loud. And today we ask, what do you think? How do you feel this phrase? You know, I think that changed. The students are more independent.
Obviously, I think it's very important to make them think, of course, for themselves. That's what I try, and that's what but I think it's also very, very important to make them imitate, copy you exactly, to be able to listen to something and copy something to the precise, you know, millisecond, and then change from that, because that's ear training, basically, isn't it? So I think both approaches are very important.
Yeah, but nowadays, you know, students, they can go to YouTube and they can listen everybody playing. They can watch slowly every movement, and they have tutorials also. So when
yes,
they
but
came
when you
to class, I have a feeling of coordinator, you know. I have to coordinate all this information, because he knows already maybe more than me about this piece, because he listen everything. Maybe you don't listen with, sometimes they don't have so much experience like us, and they don't listen, not always they listen in the right way. They need help to
you know,
but
I think one problem with YouTube today is that everything is on the palm of their hand, right now, right here. And they have all the information they want. But the problem with the YouTube is this compressed sound, which is, of course, much different than the sound, for example, on the CD or LP, or especially live concert. And this quality of sound also makes difference in thinking, in a difference in how they approach to music, difference in taste, I think.
This is So do you think the sound of the kids are different because the influence of YouTube? Maybe.
Well, digital era is leaving its marks on this generation in many ways. I think this is one of them also. Yeah.
Oh,
So that means we need to do more for our students.
Well, yes. On the other hand, I also think when they have on their palm everything, and right here, right now, also their concentration is very short, because they swipe when they don't like something. They swipe to something else that they like more. I think that we should. It's our duty to make them practice something long enough, even if they don't like it that much, and to keep their concentration and to develop their taste in music, which is very, very compressed, I think.
I think about that, Christian. Christian, are you there? Christian, you know him, is also a speaker from our conference, and he's researching about the ways to use the technology in the good of the music teaching. Yeah?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Ines. Hello, Laura. It's nice to hear you. I totally agree with you, Ines. First of all, about heritage of a music system from a former Yugoslavia. It was one of really good things apart social medical system. And I think that's a treasure for a future. And as long as we are part of a public system, it will work. Nevertheless, there are some private schools which are working super, but the basis is still on a public system, because our schools are accessible for the children, for parents, etc., and are actually for free. And that's they're just paying a small amount per month for schooling, and for textbooks, and for rental of instruments, for example, and that's all. And the second thing, as you mentioned, about the role of a teacher in nowadays. I mentioned in my previous speech that we are more or less now tutors, not like teachers, because the knowledge is really constructed everywhere, from YouTube, from Wikipedia, and so. And children are coming confused during all these things, and I do agree that a concentration or a focus to get fil rouge on the right way, that's the main role now for the teacher, not to go left or right. But actually, I don't have any question for Ines and Laura, because I totally agree with you. And perhaps just Laura, you mentioned this dualism between researchers and practitioners. I think nowadays are coming more and more in front the research point of music, not only in musicology, ethnomusicology, but especially in new ways in music pedagogy. And so I think it will develop because otherwise it would be a very good craft, our playing, without psychology, without this background. And in last, let's say, 100 years, the instrumental playing, especially for string instruments, really has developed on several pools, not only in this tactile pool, like or a aural or a visual. That's basically all.
Thank you, Christian. Christian is a friend of Ines because he was also ex-Yugoslavia. Christian came from Ljubljana from Slovenia, all you know, and he already organized a conference, so he's a good helper for us. Thank
Yes,
you, Christian.
I know Ines more than 15 years, I think, 20. And I know very well. I also have one of her manuals from the first one, and so I know her work. She is really very respected teacher in Croatia, working in a very respected school. So, and we have luck because sometimes we are still in contact, like ESTA, Slovenia and Croatia, especially through Anđelko Krpan, the president of Croatian ESTA. He's very frequently guest also in Slovenia on competitions, courses, and so. So actually, I think there is this national border has never actually exist. So about language and the playing, you ask Ines. This is a folk music. More or less in Slovenia is emphasized accordion and alpine music, playing on the accordion and so, not a string playing, because as Ines mentioned, this is really the Hungarian or Central Balkan area, Romania, and so this is the center of this folk fiddling. And we have luck with Bojan Cvetrežnik, you know him well. He brought all this music with several festivals, folk festivals in Slovenia, and composed some of traditional music, Slovenian music, on this way. So that's a mixture which is good, and we can also put, let's say, on a primary music schools for some students to play this or this way. Okay.
Thank you, Christian. I think it's time to open the discussion to everyone. If you have questions to make to our special guests, very curiosity. Yes, Jill? Jill, you need to unmute the microphone.
Unmute. Where's the unmute?
Yeah, it's already. We listen to you.
Yeah, it's unmuted. Okay. Thank you very much, Laura and Ines. Very interesting what you had to say. I'd be interested to know, in lockdown, if you've been teaching online and your experiences with, if you have, Laura, how you do your improvisation in online. And Ines, you talked a lot about the quality of sound, which is a big problem with teaching online. If you're teaching online, how you manage that. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Jill. So who wants to start? Laura? Okay, Ines?
Okay. Ines, do you want to start, Ines?
Please.
Oh, me, okay. No, me. Okay. No, I have been teaching online during the lockdown. From April, May, yes, 2 months and 2 months and a half. I had sort of individual lessons and then some group lessons. I didn't do any of the improvisation classes online, so I've got to figure how to do it for August. I'm doing a course, and for September. But because my students were sort of coming to the end of their term, we had to just work on the main repertoire. And I actually, strangely enough, found that they did have a higher degree of concentration. They were all at home. We worked really well online. I mean, sometimes it was difficult because the Wi-Fi just didn't work, and then it was pretty frustrating. We couldn't hear each other well. At the beginning, we started just without external microphones. I asked them to buy external microphones. I also used an external microphone, otherwise it was very difficult. The sound quality is pretty crappy. But yeah, no. I mean, I'm glad to be going back to sort of seeing them in October, because I found that. But it's not. I hadn't done any online teaching. I thought it was easier and more useful on some levels than I had sort of thought of. Yeah. And Inez, I don't know what.
Well, yes, I had online lectures all the time because the lockdown started in Croatia in March, I think 16 or 19. Unfortunately, few days after that, on March 22nd, we had a major earthquake in Zagreb, really, really bad one. And many students of mine, because my school is in the center of Zagreb, which had the greatest damage, the center, and many students had to leave their homes. So we just started with online lessons, and they had to leave. Some of them didn't have a connection to the internet. Some of them had bad connection. But I have to say that I'm very happy that they managed to keep their motivation until the end of the school year. So about the quality of sound, it was awful. It was disastrous. I don't know how to say it differently. We worked with Zoom online lessons, live lessons, but most of the time they sent me their tapes on WhatsApp or Viber, because it's a little bit better quality of sound there. But I have to say that many of them, as Laura said, found their better concentration and coordination of time and daily schedule. And many of them worked even better than in the normal circumstances. For some of them, it was hard, of course, and they needed a lot of motivation and a lot of unscheduled meetings. But for example, one student of mine, she planned to finish elementary school, and everything was leading to that. And then during the quarantine lockdown, her father called me and said, "You know, dear professor, she's playing all the time. We don't know what to do. She fell in love with her violin. Now she's going to high school for her entrance exam." But I have to say that the hardest for me and for students was with high school students, of course, because their repertoire needed much finer details to work on. You know, it's much different than to work with a second grade violin who plays whole bow, half bow, and you just need to play clear and to watch your hands. But when you play Saint-Saëns, then you have a lot of dynamics, a lot of phrasing. It was really, really hard. And luckily, we had a chance to work with those students, graduate students, live lately, and it was so good to see them live and to hear them and to see their reaction, immediate reaction, and not hey, stop, please. You know, it was great. I also had a master class last week, and I enjoyed it so much. I can say even much more than ever because of this lockdown period. We are so it's really enough for everybody. These screens. Well, that's it from me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your answers. Yes, I was emotional now with your words. because I had this feeling a lot. But you know, time goes so fast. I start to feel that lockdown was already the past life. We are now new life.
And hopefully it will not return.
We will see. Yeah, I think not the same way. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I hope not worse. Well, some more questions. I think Agnes was asking.
Yeah, it's totally complete different theme, but it's for me it's the most important thing in music, because you talked about nationality and language and the relation to music, and for me it's a little bit complicated to see where are the differences, and I would like to see where are the common things in music for all of European nations and for all musicians from. I think it's a really new way to see. I'm a Spanish, I'm a Portuguese, I'm a German, because I think until 1900 there were no special German music. That was in the 17th century. It was only Italian or French. There were German composers, but they composed Italian music and French music. And after that, in the 19th century, it's the only century where we talk about national music. And I think in contemporary music, it's really hard to say it's a British composer or it's a German composer. I can't see if there's really a special aspect of nationality in the music. So for me, I think it should be our game to say, okay, there are some differences, but we have to look for the common in the music, because music is a language which is understood everywhere, and it's a really good. It's better than all we have in languages.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely agree with you, Agnes.
If I may say, you know what is common for every language? It's emotion.
Yeah.
No, it's the same in all languages.
Yes, I agree with you, Ines. I was going to say exactly the same thing. And I think that what happens in music is what's happening now with us here in this Zoom session. We're using English as our common language. So obviously it's a globalized world, and we've decided to use English because it's a fantastic language. It's super flexible and it just works, you know. But I think we all love our languages and speak them and keep them alive, and they are part of us. So I think it's this kind of dual existence, isn't it? It's in a globalized world. And as you say, a lot of contemporary music, you can't really tell whether it's based more on one nationality than others. But of course, it's an interesting and thorny subject as well. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. But when you speak about language, of course, when we speak English, I think we guess from which country it comes, that first person. This is a kind of intonation, and sometimes it's not good because it sounds ugly, but sometimes it gives a subtle musicality. And I think this is interesting. I think of course, we need to, I agree with Agnes, we need to stay together, and we need to stay together with the common things, because they are a lot. But it's nice to feel also the personal, I don't know, the self, to feel the self in everything, and that becomes the world more rich. Yes, Agnes, do you want to speak?
Yeah, maybe it's like acting. If I, as a German, play something from Italy, I can feel myself as an Italian. Or if I play something from Spain, I feel it Spanish way. And it's a way of understanding these differences and the common sense behind all of that. And I think that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you are right. If I play a Spanish piece, you will say, okay, it's a German. She plays like a German. But I think that's in order, because it's my way to adapt this kind of music.
Yes.
To me and to my life, and I understand.
But you know, music is art, so all details count, and all details are to be experienced. I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's no right or wrong. There's just a
No,
kind
no,
of
no, never. No, there are beautiful or not so beautiful, I would say.
If I may say something,
Yes.
I would go back to the beginning of the learning an instrument. For example, when I wrote my first book, I've put a lot of folk songs, Croatian folk songs, and children's songs. Um, Children's songs, of course, we know that our children learn in kindergarten and everywhere. But folk songs, they also hear around them, and especially it's that we spoke about the rhythm and the harmony and the melody of the language, which enables them to more easily adopt classical music. So I think it's a very important connection. But later, as you, Agnes, said, we need to strive to more common things than our differences.
Yes, I think, as in languages, I think we will strive to find more common points and respect other people's musics if our own music or if our own languages are respected. So it's a question of not there not being abuse of power, I think, in the repertoire, in everything. I think that's very important. I know now it has nothing to do with our discussion, but Christian said something that made me extremely envious, very, very envious. The fact that your children don't have to pay to go to music school. And I think in certain places in Europe, unfortunately, Spain, I know in the UK it's much worse than in the 70s when I was there. You have to pay to go to conservatories, you have to pay to go to schools. And I think it's something, sorry that I slightly changed the subject, but it's something really that we should fight for as well as ESTA members, to try and change this very, very unjust system.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Last flash question, because it's time flows and we need to finish our meeting. Well, I have one quite difficult. I want to ask Laura how she can see and how creative are her to make the workshop online.
Well, do you remember that I wrote to you a bit of a desperate email last week because I thought that this session was actually the workshop, and at first I don't know, I think I answered probably very late at night. I said, oh, of course, I'll see you whatever on the 4th. And then I wrote to Emilia saying, hey, Emilia, what exactly do you want me to do? Because I couldn't exactly imagine how to do the workshop online, although I mean, I do have colleagues who have done the workshops online, simply a group of people, a group of instrumentalists. Let me think about it, because I think, I'm not sure whether it would work, or whether we would probably get something out of it, but maybe 20% or something. What was your idea, Jorge, to sort of?
I don't like numbers. I'm not a researcher. Like more about the quality.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. You know, 20 is much more than 0.
I know, for sure.
This is something I know about numbers.
No, for sure. And maybe,
I think we are musicians. We are creative. We will find a way. I think now everybody knows you. You came to show, and so everybody wants to make the workshop. I want to make.
Let's think about it. Let's think
about it. Okay, it's
achieve something.
Yeah, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much, all of you, for being with us, watching us, and sending us your comments and your questions. It's really nice to make these meetings. We end it with a very good feeling of team and about sharing love and emotion in music and teaching. Thank you very much for Tomastic. and Pirastro. Thank you very much for our special guests, Laura and Inês. You are welcome to Porto 2020. So bye-bye, see you next week. If you are a member, if you are registered in the conference, you can stay a little more for a coffee break. We have some coffee to offer you, so maybe a glass of wine. So bye-bye, see you next week.